I'm very excited. You could hear that. I'm Noa, and I'm an algorithm researcher at Mintigo. And today I'll share with you some of my recent research regarding machine learning-based cheat features detection. So first we will move and we'll have a little bit of introduction about Mintigo. And then we'll talk about cheat feature detection challenge, the detection heuristics, and show some results. So let's start from the beginning. What we are doing at Mintigo, we empower marketeers to be more productive, meaning to gain more revenue with less effort. And how do we do that? We use data science and machine learning especially. But first of all, our analysis relies on our goldmine, which is our B2B data sets. And we have generated the deepest and widest data cloud in the B2B industry. We have over 400 million known facts across 17 million organizations globally. Our data includes firmographics, which is the data on the company, technographics, which is the data about which solutions and technology the company is in use in the company. We have intent data, which is behavioral kind of data about websites visitations of the people who works at the company. And we have data of people, about people who works in the company. So on the top of that, and combined with feature engineering, which is done on the customer's data, we build our ensemble of models, which basically predict who is more likely to become a customer of that company. So our system demands minimum intervention of the user. The user uploads two lists. One is the positive list, which includes his customers. And one is the house list, which includes his potential prospects. And we clean the data, we build features, and then score the leads, enrich them with our indicators, which we deliver as the DNA of the company. And we prioritize them for the marketeer so he could have a more efficient job. We deal with large variety of data sets which varied in their quality, their size, their origin. And thus, our platform has to be scalable and automatic. So, as you all know, the models are significantly affected by the quality and reliability of the features, and that's make the cleaning process be a major part of the pre-processing of the data. And part of this cleaning process, we do feature selection, but to move redundancy and irrelevant features. But feature selection helps us to find the good features and not to eliminate the too good features. And what do I mean by too good features? And let's define, we call them cheat features. Let's define what is it a cheat feature. This is a feature which can lead to overfitted model. And by overfit, I mean not the traditionally overfit, which goes the model to AUC close to 1, but also models that perform better than they expected because they use this cheat feature. And I remind you that our system is automatic, so we couldn't clean the data manually and do manually analysis before. And let's show some examples. One is the firmographic country, the feature country. And let's say that companies' sales were focused at the beginning at one country, and now they want to expand their sales. So at the positive list, the distribution of the countries will be best towards one country, whereas at the house list, which we use as negatives, the house list will consist of a variety of countries. The distribution will be more spreaded. And we can all imagine what will happen to the model if we use that country feature. And another example is the technographic indicator, which is user, like is Mintigo user. And let's say that we're building a model for Mintigo. So if we use is Mintigo user in the model, it will be more like using the ground truth. And the same effect happens when the lists are oriented from different origin. And let's say that the house list is bought from outer vendor, and most of the emails there were corrupted. So the emails at the positive list will be valid, and the emails of the house list will be corrupted. And using a validation of the email as a feature will have the same effect. And what happens if a new lead comes? Then if it has a good email, does it mean that he is going to buy the product of the company? And if the email is not really valid, does it mean that is not going to be a customer? So these are the cheat features, and our challenge is to automatically and scalably detect them. So let's have a little bit introduction about random forest, which my heuristics relies on. So random forest, for those who don't know, it's a meta estimator that aggregates and bag lots of decision trees, and each decision tree is trained on a sample of the rows of the leads, in our case, and each node at each decision tree is considered. We consider only subsample of the features there, and the decision which feature will split the node eventually can be done by many methods, but we'll focus on Gini impurity, which is the most common, and we can compute the impurity for each node, and the impurity is a measure for basically for the heterogeneity of the node, and it gets to its maximum when the node is completely heterogeneous, when you have equal rows, equal leads from each class, and it gets to its minimum, which is 0, when the node is completely pure. So computing this, we can compute this for the node, and assuming we are splitting the node with that feature, we can compute the impurity for each of his descendants, and then optimize the split by this decrease. So the feature which splits the more good, it is the best feature for the node. And in the end of the training, we can compute the importance based on that split. We can average all the nodes in the forest, which involved the split of this feature, and proportionally to the number of samples it split. Meaning, the higher the nodes it has been chosen, then the more weight it gains. So random forest for feature selection is a common way, and it helps us to deal with a lot of features, and the feature importance is naturally derived by the way of the splits happen. So how do we utilize that randomness of random forest to detect the cheat feature? At first, I will show the heuristics and then the idea behind that. So for the beginning, train the random forest on all of the data, and then eliminate the zero importance feature. Then train random forest again, and sort the features by the difference in importance between the second iteration and the first one. Mark the feature with the maximum difference as a suspect to cause overfit. And you can repeat that procedure on and on to find more and more suspects. But what makes maximum difference to point out a suspect? This is, recall that at each node we consider only subset of the features. And by eliminating the zero features, the zero importance, we increase the odds of the cheat features to be chosen at the upper nodes. And because of their good splitters, and they will be chosen at the upper nodes, and thus their importance will be increased. Their weight will be increased because they split more samples, and their decrease is really good. So here is an example of the changes in feature importance along iterations. Here we can see in blue the first one, and in green the second one. And we can see that the first feature is changed the most. So this is the suspect of that round. But why not simply eliminate just the top weight features? This is because the cheat features are not always at the top. We know that random forest deals with correlated features, and that doesn't have to be the first one. But what we do know that it changed its importance the most. And you can think that a good feature can be chosen at the upper nodes, and then when the cheat feature is chosen, all the job of splitting the rows in that node already has been done by the good feature up. So it has a lower node and then lower weight, and it doesn't split a lot of rows. So let's see a demonstration for that principle. Let's consider a feature set and 16 features, where feature number 4 is the cheat feature, and the features 14 till 16 are irrelevant features. And let's consider that tree, where at the upper node, at the root, we have two classes, positive and our house list. And let's say that we have 400 leads at each. And we can see that only in level 2 of the tree, feature number 4 has been chosen. So although it splits best and optimally the node, it is only a small amount of leads that it splits. And let's see what happens when we eliminate the irrelevant features, the zero importance one, and now we increase the odds, and it has been chosen at the first level of the tree, and now it gains more weight and more importance, and that's why it has changed its importance. But we can keep eliminating that suspect on and keep doing that, and we need to know when to stop. And there is another thing. It's only a suspect. How do we detect whether the suspect is really a cheat feature or not? So I've tried to have a rule-based conditions, and then I realized that I need to consider many characteristics, and then I got to realize that a classifier will know better. So I took all the characteristics that I can think of, and I trained random forest. I tagged the data by myself. I took each round that consists of the 2 iterations of random forest, and each round is representing a suspect, and the classifier will tell me whether this suspect is indeed cheat feature or not. And I took like the 10 top importance weights, the difference between that importances, the top difference importances, the STD of the importance, and the lifts of the features, the suspect, the rows, the AUC, the score, anything that I could think of. And the results were very surprising, and the accuracy was very high at any kind of data set. And we can see the importance of the features, and we can see that it really makes sense. But when I tried to do it by myself, I couldn't have that rule-based, because maybe it's not a rule-based, a regular one, but the classifier managed to do that. And we can see that the STD and the weights are at the top of the importance, and we are getting low when we in the order of the features, when we getting down in the importance graph. So finally, we had an automated and scalable way to detect those features, and this is just getting down to production now. And we are improving our analysts' work so that they won't have to do iterations and explore the data manually. Thank you. So, any questions?
Any questions from the audience?
Hi.
Hi.
Did you try to predict the cheat feature based on more than 2 iterations?
Based on what? Sorry?
On more than 2 iterations, such as 4 or 6 iterations? Take the average of the difference.
Yeah, I took the 10 top features.
Iterations, yes.
Yes. I didn't mention that, but the data for that random forest classifier, I took 15 iterations of suspects and predict whether it is a cheat feature or not. And the rule when to stop is, by my experience, when the classifier detects there are no two consecutive false suspects. So when I'm detecting false suspect at the third time, I stop and realize there is no more suspects.
Okay.
Cheat features.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? So about the second random forest that now you're using
after
to
eliminating
detect,
the zero.
now you're using to detect
The
cheating
stop
features.
classifier.
Yeah, so maybe I missed it. So this random forest doesn't have cheating features?
I thought about that, but I don't think so.
Maybe you need another random forest.
Maybe.